You might probably be wondering why the real estate developer is not moved by your decision to go to court or involve your legal team in the failed real estate transaction. Do you know that may be to the fact that these guys have intelligently enacted some clauses on your contract for sale that you may not be aware of? So on today's episode, I'm going to be talking basically on these clauses and how you should watch out for them before you buy real estate. You're welcome to my channel, and everything I talk extensively on this channel is to give you an updated level of some important things you need to understand before you buy property in Lagos, Nigeria. A lot of people have been talking about buying, but they have not carefully analyzed the risk that may be attached to that investment. They don't even have a conceptual knowledge of how the real estate industry work. Many of them are not even familiar with some of the problems that may have arose even after several months of purchase. So on today's episode, I'm going to be talking one of the basic important things that is mostly avoided and ignored by real estate investors, and this obviously could even be a potent, powerful tools that the real estate investor or the real estate developer can use to exonerate themselves in the place of failed property transaction. Well, once again, welcome to this channel. If this is your first time, do well to subscribe. If you're a returning subscriber, thumbs up to you. You know what I do here. I discuss everything real estate, and of course, I'm hoping to help you to do a safe and profitable real estate investment. So let's quickly go to the content without wasting so much of your time. On today's episode, I'm going to be talking extensively on some important legal clauses that you must understand before you purchase properties. So what are these important legal clauses that every real estate investor must look out for when they are acquiring properties in Lagos, Nigeria? Now, because of the fact that there are some property transactions that may be shrouded with various forms of uncertainties, some unrealistic things could happen in the course of the purchase, and sometimes too you really cannot anticipate the different issues that may arise, and that is why it is very important for a real estate investor to pay attention to this. Now, what are those important clauses that you must pay attention to? The first one is the refund clauses. Now, most real estate investors go into property purchase without understanding the developer's terms and conditions for the refund, and a lot of people, in the course of trying to get their refund, they go through a lot of rigorous processes, and to the point that I've seen several instances whereby the real estate investors, when it comes to the issue of refund, don't even pay the necessary amount of money that they have agreed. So when you're talking about the refund clauses talks about in a situation whereby the property transaction could not go through, what are the certain conditions that may enforce or propel the real estate developer to issue a refund. But one thing most people don't understand basically is that a refund clause should also go further to explain the mode of payment, the terms of payment, and of course the duration of payment. Now, I've seen it from some property details that some property clauses and forms that most real estate developer will only say, I'm going to deduct 40% administrative charges. Some would say, I'm going to deduct 30% administrative charges, and then most of them will further say that refund is processed after 90 days. And one of the faults that I have discovered from these refund clauses is due to the fact that many of them don't state a condition that when the real estate developer is one at fault, is not supposed to take or deduct some money from the refund. Now, it has been proven beyond every reasonable doubt that most real estate developers don't own up to their errors, and sometimes in a position where refund is mandatory, many of them always deduct some money. So some clauses did not always agree to the fact that if the fault comes from the real estate developer is supposed to pay the amount of money in full. In some cases where the property was forcefully taken from the developer, it is not the fault of the investor. So there is no it doesn't make any sense or any investment sense for the developer to deduct money knowing fully well that he or she is at fault, and the investor should not take losses for his own failures. Okay. Also, in the refund clauses, I've also discovered that most of these people don't always put a payment plan on how and when or the duration that they want to complete this refund. Now, there have been cases of real estate developer will just pay some amount of money, and after payment of that amount of money, they don't pay again. And sometimes the person or the investor that is expecting this refund is mostly frustrated. These are some of the clauses. So the solution to this is that if you are buying, you need them to clearly state and of course explain their conditions for refund, and ensure that these conditions is properly understood and of course is beneficial to both parties. The second clauses that most real estate investors also need to pay attention to is what we call the allocation clauses. Now, we know that there are some instances whereby most real estate developers will say that allocation is upon 100% payment of the land fees and other statutory charges. Now, I've seen other real estate development companies who have come up with different innovative ideas saying that their own allocation is upon 70% payment. But the most important thing that real estate investor must know is that in a situation whereby it is either 70% or 100%, it also needed to be stated that allocation must be fixed. Now, some will say allocation is upon 100% payment or after several months that the deed or every other related document has been released. Now, I found out that despite the fact that some documents have been released, some allocations have been delayed, provided the fact that all these conditions have been stated on the deed and on the contract of sale. So what real estate investor must do is that they have to state it that allocation is done between 1 or 2 months after document has been done, and failure to do this will be the penalty or the fine that the real estate developer must pay attention to. Now, you cannot make this demand without, of course, the knowledge of your lawyer. So you need your lawyer to be involved. So this is also another important legal clause that you must put into consideration if you're buying real estate in Lagos. Now, the next clause that you also need to clarify with the real estate developer is what we call the sell-on clause. Now, the sell-on clause talks about the certain conditions that a seller or an investor who has bought into that property must meet. And most times, these sell-on clauses are sometimes too, enacted in either the contract of sale or the deed of assignment. Now, when you talk about these sell-on clauses, some companies will say that before you can sell your property, you need to inform the company, which obviously to me it makes a lot of sense. But some would say that if you sell, some amount of money must go back to the company as their own fee for making that property available for you. Now, the most important thing basically is that all these things I've found out that they are fraud, because if I've bought a property from you, I've paid all your fees, I have total control of my land, and I want to sell, it doesn't make sense that I still have to give you some amount of money from the property you sold and you collected the fee. Now, a lot of people go into property transaction without understanding the developer's conditions or clauses for sell-on. So this is also something you must clarify. The only thing I think I need to call the attention of the company for is for them to just prepare a deed that is probably transferring the ownership of the property, maybe from me, the seller, to my new buyer. So there is no conditions whereby I must be mandated to pay some amount of money to commission from the company. That obviously is also another clause you must look out for, and your lawyer must be in a better position to do what? To fight, so that you will not be cheated. The next clause that you should also pay attention to is what we call the indemnity clause. Now, the indemnity clause basically is very, very mandatory. More importantly, if you are dealing with a real estate developer that you are doubting their integrity or their credibility. Now, the indemnity clause clearly states that after you have purchased that property and anything happens to the property, the developer is mandated, okay, to relocate you to another property of the same value and of course within that same location. Oftentimes, it is quite unfortunate that some real estate investors don't pay attention to this indemnity clause, which obviously is the most important of all. Now, today, a lot of people have bought properties and they don't know the status of their property. And if this indemnity clause is not stated on your contract of sale, the developer is not under any form of compulsion, okay, to provide an alternative when there are issues of trouble or you cannot access the properties you have paid for. Now, a smart realtor will always ensure that such clauses are they're incorporated in either your deed of assignment or your contract of sale. So should I go for an indemnity clause? Like in a situation whereby you doubt, the integrity or the credibility of the company, to save your money and to save your investment, an indemnity clause should be inserted to your contract of sale. The next legal clause that you should pay attention to, which is also important, is what we call the default charges clauses. Now, when we talk about the default charges clauses, now these clauses basically is protecting the interest, okay, of the developer. Now, we've seen instances whereby some people will show interest in a property, then after making initial deposit, you don't get to hear from them again, only for you to find out that after several months or several years of after purchasing that property, they will just show up in the blue moon and they'll start saying, the property I paid for, I think I made an initial deposit of maybe 1 million or 2 million and I want to continue the payment. Now, the reason why default charges is always enacted on the contract of sale is to ensure that real estate investors stick to the payment plan. Now, they pay, if they have subscribed for 6 months, the default charges states that any month that, some will even say, if you are not making payment any month, this is the charges. Some will even say, if you have not paid like 3 months consistently, the contract will be cancelled. And basically, most real estate investors are not aware because some of their realtors don't pay attention to all these clauses. So if you are going for a 1 year, stick to the payment plan and pay as at when due, because failure to do that, the developer under the ambit of the law has the right to cancel the contract and of course give you refund as he chooses or as he wishes. So you should also look at that as well. Okay, so I have so many clauses that I want to discuss today. So the next clause that I will also be talking about is what we call the development clauses. Now, the development clauses basically is mostly found in properties that are located in a buildable area. Now, I've seen instances whereby some developer will say that they don't want you to land bank on the property. Now, this one is essentially based on a developer that wants to build and sell up that estate within shortest time. So the development clause will say real estate investors or clients who are bought into that property are compelled to start building after 2 years of purchase. Some will say after 1 year. Like I said, these policies vary, so it is very important we also state this. Now, in some conditions, if you have been following all these transactions or you have been filling the form, some company will say that they will ask you on the contract or on the form you are filling that how soon you want to start development. The moment you say you want to start development 2 years, just know that they will not allocate you at the front because they are trying to achieve uniformity in terms of building, in terms of structures, and in terms of development. So what most of them will do is that the moment they find out that you are just buying to keep the land, you are not doing any development work, they will allocate you to the back. And obviously, so you need to understand the clauses, the conditions that the developer is setting for development. For those who don't want you to land blank, they will tell you you have 2 months or 2 years or say several months to start building. Failure to do that, they will reallocate you to the back and give that plot to someone who is ready to build. So you obviously want to pay attention to this. Now, the reason why I'm explaining these clauses is because of the fact that a whole lot of people will be surprised by the time they found out that the land they've bought, they've been allocated to the back. I'm referring to a developer that is building. Okay, it has been happening, so you need to pay attention to that. The final and obviously the most important of all is what we call the documentation clauses. The documentation clauses talk extensively on who is the one perfecting title, and this is prominent to those who are land banking, those who are buying ekpe, those who are buying untitled properties. Now, the documentation clauses will state, okay, that who is going to do the title. Now, there are some real estate development companies that will say title perfection is mandatory, we're doing it after 2 years. Some will say it is mandatory, we're doing it after several years. So you need to find out who is doing the title, because if you don't find out, there will be cases of what? Surprises. And of course, may God not allow government to take your properties. So these are some of the most important clauses you should pay attention to if you're buying real estate. If you find this video educative, give us a thumbs like, share this video, and of course, subscribe to our channel. See you in my next video. God bless you. Bye for now.